The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to The Blockchain Show. I'm your host, Ethan Kinderconnect. Thank you for joining me today. Today I've got a guest on the show, Tej Gundavelli, the CEO and co-founder of TALGiving. Tej, welcome to The Blockchain Show.
Thank you for having me, Ethan.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here. Some good work that you're doing over there. But before we get into specifically what you're working on, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to know about this thing called the blockchain?
So I went to school for computer science, and I've always been passionate about, building various stuff. I've always loved, participating in hackathons, etc. And, along the way, like once you start getting involved with kind of the coder zeitgeist, eventually at some point you are inevitably slammed with, well, there's this really cool thing out there called the blockchain. And at that point, I had already started the Touch of Life Foundation for a couple years then. And when I had seen the potential for blockchain to really transform the way we pay for things, the way we do user verification, the way we really think about just a lot of underlying structures that are so important to helping make our social systems possible, I was very excited by it. And I instantly started delving into the research, looking into, the Satoshi Nakamoto paper, playing around with different tools to get me familiar with the blockchain. And I think that's what really got my interest started there.
That's excellent. Tell me a little bit about TALGiving and kind of the impetus, how that came to be.
So we started out as the Touch of Life Foundation, right, which was just a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping people within the Bay Area, specifically homeless youth. And what we wanted to do was to see if there was a way that we could help any sort of student in cash or in kind, right? And so what we mean when we say cash or in kind is to either be able to help pay for expenses that the homeless youth had, or to be able to help provide goods that they may need, for instance, suits for job interviews, or maybe socks and sweaters. And that was really the impetus for starting the foundation. Eventually, what we realized was we wanted to scale this experience really and to turn it into something that is truly internet enabled. I'm from the Silicon Valley, so I've had the chance to see so many different apps go and boom and make a splash in terms of the world of like IPOs and generating a lot of users. But I felt that there was a real need to build applications that were focused on giving and that were focused on helping causes that mattered within, say, our local communities. It becomes very easy to get for these kinds of ideas to kind of get lost within that landscape. And so we started the TALGiving application, which was basically a community-driven app that could help students or students within the area get involved with local nonprofit issues and could help solve a lot of these, help pay in cash or in kind for a lot of issues that, people cared about, be it, blood donations, be it paying for people's cancer treatment, or, being able to help fund COVID masks. And so really what we try to do is create an internet-enabled giving experience where all sorts of types of givings were recognized and gamified and incentivized.
Wow. Thank you for doing that. I really admire the heart that goes behind that. I think nowadays, especially living in I don't know what to call it, man. I mean, we're still in the COVID pandemic, but I feel like there was two parts to it. There was like before George Floyd and after. And It's almost like taken on a whole new intensity. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us are kind of like, I don't know what to call it, sequestered off into our own little areas. I mean, I'm in the Los Angeles area and we're still pretty much hanging out at home. And when we get out, we're not really interacting with people. Everybody's kind of afraid of each other. So I really don't know what's going on, but just giving people the ability to, I don't know if it's connect or just be of service online.
I think it's a combination of being able to connect and to be able to feel good about yourself, right? Or to feel good about yourself in the process of giving and getting involved. And we recently started this thing called TAL Radio, which was a series of podcasts that we would launch on the TALGiving app, because we felt that a lot of the stuff that you were seeing in the news, they were so focused on negativity, and it was really easy to just get overwhelmed by it all these days. So we wanted to just create like a podcast where some of these organizations that we're working with, give them a chance to showcase themselves on the application, talk about the good work that they're doing, and give people a chance to be like, okay, like there's a lot of progress being made by some of these small organizations that are trying to partner up and still trying to make their way around this really difficult time that we're all living in.
Yeah, really, really good to hear. Tell me more about the app and how that works.
The app is a mechanism for connecting donors to donees. I like to think of it as, the same way Uber connects, people who want to get from spot A to spot B to drivers. Users to drivers, we connect donors to donees, and we allow them to facilitate giving, as I mentioned, in cash, kind, or in time. But a donor and donee are really very relatively loose terms, right? Like today, there's multiple different types of donors, right? I could be a nonprofit organization that wants to be a donor. I could be a user or like an individual that wants to be a donor, or I can be a corporate CSR program that wants to be a donor. And so we've built various different flavors or experiences for each of these different types of donors. And at the same time, there are different types of donees. If you think about it, there's organizations that need donee type of help. They could need volunteering services. They could need cash donations, etc. Or you can have users, given individuals who are in need for who may need some kind of either financial assistance or some kind of mentoring help. And so what we really do is we create a social experience out of that, connecting one individual to the other individual and helping make that, that sense of connection possible. And then we try to make this, again, as community driven as possible. So we have a program that we've launched called the TAL Scouts program. And through that, we're recruiting a bunch of different local high school students to help, administer the site, make sure that there's not any sort of improper content that's going on the site, that site rules are being managed effectively, and also that they are able to champion some of the causes that they care about that have been put on the platform.
Very good. Again, just excellent work you're doing there. And, some people might be familiar with other, I don't know what to call it, conventional or traditional, that's not the right word, but legacy forms of say like GoFundMe or something like that, or
yes,
or there's a ton of them out there, but a lot of the times they will take the part of the proceeds, and sometimes you hear about people raising more money than they needed, and they just kept going and like saved the money and stuff like that. So I imagine that your platform is really just focused on helping people. So I think that's really, really good to hear.
Yes, exactly. And I think one of the things that when we take a look at a site like GoFundMe, right, they are dealing with, as you mentioned, all of these legacy systems, and the places that we are trying to innovate in are on those systems, right? How can we use blockchain to help the privacy question, right? How do we make sure that a given individual's privacy is maintained, but at the same time we can still verify that this user is actually who they say they are and they're actually in need? How do we, how do we change the payment processing game in terms of the actual money that is taken out in between when a user wants to send a transaction, when a donor wants to send a transaction or a amount of money to a donee? So the way we think of it is we think of it in terms of 3 C's, right? You have cash, which is more cash given from the donor to the donee, and more compliance, which is basically that, okay, there's an actual framework of verifying, whether or not the donee is who they say they are. And then in terms of again, coin in terms of like, okay, the donor themselves is now receiving more money as a result of this request.
So awesome, man. And I really, really like how you guys are utilizing cryptocurrencies, crypto-based donations. I know a lot of our audience is already on Minds.com, but in case anybody's not familiar with Minds, tell us a little bit about that partnership and how that's working.
Yeah, so I mean, again, Minds is they're a charter member on our platform, and what we want to do is we're basically partnering with them on creating an open experience where Minds is an open source platform where people can go in and they can be a part of a social media platform that isn't handled by one large monopoly or one large entity, right? And they've created very strong communities within their platform, and we wanted to be able to see how we could explore those synergies and connect the donor. The donors that can exist on that platform find causes that they care about and be able to bring them to the TALGiving platform and help pay for, help contribute to those causes.
Yeah, I always feel really good just being on that site. I mean, there's definitely some people that are on there that I try to stay away from, but in general, just the whole experience and knowing that it's open source and that it's got good intentions. It just, man, it's a step in the right direction. And I'm so excited that you guys are working together. And, in case anybody would like to check it out, it's minds.com/touchalive. And I highly recommend you guys just go and check it out. But, outside of Minds, tell people how they can get involved.
So you can download the TALGiving app right now on the Android App Store or the Apple App Store, and really kind of check the app out, find some causes that are on the app, and be able to pay towards it. We are supporting different countries, different currencies. We're supporting all sorts of different types of initiatives over there. And then I think other ways in which people can, work with us, like I mentioned earlier, we have this TAL Scouts program where you can contribute in time towards helping build this initiative or this application that we're trying to make, in terms of either helping us explore a lot of the things that we're trying to do within the blockchain space, or maybe within the AI side of actually doing a better job in terms of recommending people to the causes that they might care about, or even just the community upkeep of keeping the application together. Being a part of these kinds of projects are a great way to have a community, to meet a community of developers and really do some good at the same time.
Yeah, and I think you guys really are. Especially, you mentioned young people, teenagers. That's such a pivotal time in life, and to have kindness given at that time can really affect someone's worldview.
Mm-hmm. I will say we've moved. We've moved past the whole just helping homeless teenagers within a given area, and we've since then we've tried to see how can we help people within India, farmers within India, for instance. How can we introduce mentoring sessions to students of all ages or people who are looking for jobs, etc. Again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to diversify the ways in which we're helping people, because what we're noticing, at least during this pandemic time, is that the ways in which people need help is not singular. There are several different ways in which people need help, and we're simply trying to, help facilitate that process through an app or some kind of, internet type of engagement. And I think right now, because of social distancing and because of COVID, there's a need for that now more than ever.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's probably very, very, very timely. And you mentioned other ways to help besides donating money. So maybe just expand a little bit. Say somebody doesn't necessarily have a lot of money they can share, but how can they get involved?
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways that we really want people to get involved is through, say, mentoring, for instance, right? I mentioned the TAL Scouts earlier. Like, if you're in high school, you can mentor other students, for instance. You can help, work with hospitals or work with local community organizations on the TALGiving app to either raise funds for them or help find materials that they may need that they're short supplied on, for instance, masks or gloves, etc. What we're really trying to do is, again, use people's volunteering times efficiently, such that they can help a lot of these organizations who may feel that they don't have the time to be able to develop these internet platforms or build that full experience out to be able to get users and get them fully interacted with. But you can maybe volunteer your time to help out an organization that you care about and really facilitate that entire process through. And the TALGiving application gives you the rails to really make that possible, be it through the social media exposure that you are giving to an organization, the actual payment mechanism to raise funds for that organization, or just moderating community interactions amongst people discussing how can we help on the TALGiving application. So like helping either monitor the newsfeed or helping people discuss like, okay, here are other ways that we can start fundraisers, etc.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And I like I said earlier, I really like the podcast you guys are working on there. And is it a daily thing or how does that work?
We post on a weekly basis.
Oh, okay, cool. And what made you decide to go and start a podcast, and when did that begin?
The podcast started, I want to say late last year to early this year. And it started out as a radio program. We wanted to, again, just spread the word on the TALGiving application. And also just, again, we felt that there was this need for more news that spread good stuff and more news for people to concretely feel that, hey, this is a way that I can get involved with causes that I care about. And so what we had, embarked on was basically building this radio show / podcast experience where, we bring a lot of these organizations to just talk about, okay, like here's my organization, here's what we do, here's some of the challenges that we face, and here's a really concrete way in which you can contribute to what we're doing through the TALGiving platform.
It's such a fantastic way to connect with people, just the spoken word. So I admire that. So there's an India connection and a Bay Area connection, but where else are you guys working at?
I think right now we're mainly working on those two areas, but we're also looking in terms of like the United States, building more centers around various major cities. So we're looking at, for instance, like a Dallas chapter, a New Jersey chapter, Chicago chapter, etc., where everyone in those various locations can leverage the TALGiving application, but they can run their own initiatives for those specific areas. So really, I mean, blockchain is all about decentralization, and we kind of take that mentality towards what we're doing and kind of making this sort of like a decentralized franchise model where it's like, okay, we have various TALGiving chapters, but they all can utilize this unified platform that we're all using to help spread the word and to help also, help get people involved.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorite aspects of just blockchain in general is just, decentralization. It really doesn't matter who someone is or where they're from. It's just code, and it can be either helpful or not. And we're seeing a lot of helpful things being developed. So I really admire what you're working on. I'm curious what you see, how you see blockchain technology evolving with the Touch of Life Foundation. Do you see it taking on any new forms, or does it just fit a need that you have?
Yes. So I'd say it fits two very crucial needs that we have. And number one, you're starting to see a lot of governments start to experiment around with blockchain on the digital ID side, right? On how we can verify if a person is who they say they are. And so we really want to be able to use some of the work that has been gone into, say, zero knowledge proofs and digital ID to verify whether a user is who they say they are without them actually having, and for us to be able to confirm that they are that person without any extra information being revealed about them, right? And so we're really excited about some of the stuff that's going on within the blockchain space over there. Again, creating that compliance-driven experience where if a corporate social responsibility program wants to use, wants to take up the TALGiving application within their company and wants several people to donate within that TALGiving platform, we can keep track of who is sending money to what causes they care about, and also at the same time make sure that users' data privacy and is secured, right? Because I think that has become a lot more prevalent these days in terms of how do we make sure that an individual's privacy is maintained and that they're still able to get access to the resources that they need. And the other big thing is, again, you're seeing a lot of disruption in the payment processor area and in decentralized finance. So how can we, support various kinds of either microloans, or how can we support various types of payment options where we can give money to the users without having to go through the traditional means that we've seen thus far.
Yeah, very good. And as we're talking about just how people are continuing to deal with COVID-19 globally. How do you see this changing your operations?
I think we have tried to be as internet driven as possible. Just in our development process, I think our engineering team has done a great job just coordinating with each other during COVID and making a great application. And I think it's changed our day-to-day operations in that respect, right? Where everything that we're doing is distributed. But I think it's also disrupting the way that a lot of people
You broke up there for a minute.
I think it got
Can
disconnected.
You hear me?
Sorry about that. Where did I leave off?
I've lost connection here.
Yeah. So we're more internet-based now. I think just as an engineering team, we're more internet-based now more than ever. But also as you're looking at other orgs and other charities, you're also seeing them become more internet-based and having to be more internet-enabled. So I think we are trying to make sure that we fit in that sweet spot of, how do you enable a lot of these legacy charities or legacy social institutions like, social giving programs, maybe hospitals, for instance, and how do you enable them to work in an internet era?
So we've got a pretty good overview of Touch a Life Foundation's giving app, TALGiving. Let's give people listening a little bit more actionable steps how they can get involved.
So yes, again, download the TALGiving app on your Google App Store or your Android App Store. And then you can get involved with pretty immediately with any of the causes that you care about. And if there are causes that you care about that you don't see on the application, add it to the app and use it to engage, the people around you to donate to the causes that they care about in either cash, kind, or time. And what I'd also encourage listeners of this podcast is if you're a developer, join our TAL Scouts program and help run some of the engineering initiatives that we have on the TALGiving side. Again, be it either in the blockchain space or the AI space, or in some of the app UI experiences that we have. I think there's a lot of room for us to engage a lot of the developer community out there to really see how we can make an app that everyone can use and be a part of.
Very good. And we're talking things like clothing, shelter, food, medical.
Exactly. All of that. So we are trying to roll out initiatives within the mentoring side, within, the blood donation side, within the, the movement of hygiene kits for, during COVID. We're trying to use various initiatives to involve our community and get people involved with, just various different ways in which we can think about, getting involved in making the world a better place.
Yeah, I love it. And, just talking about the platform, the technology, the economics of public donations, I think it's something that needs to be disrupted. And I really admire what you guys are actually putting into place. So thanks for doing what you're doing. And maybe if you wouldn't mind, just give us some closing thoughts about kind of where we're headed as humanity and how blockchain is going to play a part in our future.
I think I'm very hopeful about humanity. I think if anything that this time has shown me, it's that we are very resilient and fundamentally caring people, at least from what I've seen on just the response to on our platform, and also just what I've seen in the world in terms of just people taking up various social causes. We had rallies where people spoke up against injustice. We are seeing more and more giving related funds for a lot of our essential workers come up, and so I'm hopeful on that end, on the giving side. And I'm also very hopeful in the way that blockchain will change things. I think technology has done a great job of disrupting the way that we have gotten our information, but there is now a ripe opportunity for technology to disrupt the way that we think about trust and the way that trust permeates within our systems. And so when trust is something that is created by code, there's a lot more that you can do, and there's a lot more that's enabled, and you can really find new ways to be a part of the system and get creative with the ways that you're thinking about giving, or the ways that you're thinking about getting involved in conversations that you normally wouldn't be a part of. I think blockchain and all of the new changes that we're doing in data privacy and compliance and in money movement, I think that all enables that. And I think that is just going to create a fundamental paradigm shift in both in the world in giving and in the world in general.
Yeah, it's very good to hear. And it's happening, and it's because of people like you. So, Tej, thank you so much for not only doing what you're doing, but also coming on the Blockchain Show and sharing this with our audience. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you, Ethan.